Hello first stage students, welcome to the ninth and the last lecture of your course that is concerned with the beginner and the pre-intermediate level. This lecture will include Unit 11 to talk about an important grammatical item, which is the passive voice, its function and use. And with Unit 12 we will shed light on the phrasal verbs, while the present perfect continuous tense will be discussed in Unit 13 in addition to a linguistic topic which is called word formation. So by starting with Unit 11, the passive voice, we can say that passive voice is used when the focus is on the action. It is not important or not known, however, who or what is performing the action. So when we are making the sentence passive, it means that our focus on important thing, which is the action, I mean the verb, not the doer or the agent. And you can see here that the form of the passive, I mean the structure, is to put the subject, and actually it is not the subject, it is the object that will be placed instead of the subject, plus the finite form of verb be, either to choose is, was, are, or were, according to the tense of the verb and according to the case of the subject, whether it is plural or singular. After that, the past participle of the main verb. And here we have examples concerning the passive voice, one from the simple present, the other from the past, because you are concerned only with two sentences. Here we have the active from the simple present tense. Rita writes a letter. So you see here we have the subject, the verb, and the object. What we are doing here is to omit the subject, putting the object, which is the letter, and support it with the verb be, which is, and then the past participle of the main verb, which is written from the verb write. We can say by Rita, or you can delete it as you like. Both are correct. So with the simple past, here we have Rita wrote a letter. So you notice here the verb changed into the past tense. With the passive, it would be a letter was written by Rita. So we only changed the finite form of be to be was instead of is, because here we have a past simple tense. So the question here is, when should we use the passive? So here we have the use of passive voice. Why do we use passive voice? Or what are the cases that we use the passive? First of all, we have when we want to change the focus of the sentence. As we mentioned earlier, that if we have a sentence and we want to pay attention more to the action, we are going to use the passive. As you see in this example, we have the Mona Lisa was painted by Leonardo da Vinci. So we are more interested in the painting than in the artist in this sentence. Number two, when who or what causes the action is unknown or unimportant. When we have, for example, people in general, we are not going to mention the doer of the action because we don't know him or her. And when we have something unimportant, so we're going to say, for example, he was arrested, or my bike was stolen, or the road is repaired, and finally the form is obtained from the post office. With number three, when we have factual or scientific writing, we are going to use the passive voice. As you see here, we have the chemical is placed in a test tube and the data entered into the computer. So here we have a scientific style or scientific writing, so we use the passive voice. In number four, we have informal writing. Instead of using someone, people or they, we are going to use passive voice because these expressions are commonly used with the informal writing. So as in the example, the brochure was finished last month. With number 5, in order to put the new information at the end of the sentence to improve style. So it is a way just to change the style or make the listener or the audience of your sentence expect what would be next at the end of the sentence. So the example is 3 books are used regularly in the class. The books were written by Dr. Bill. So we said the books were written by Dr. Bill instead of saying Dr. Bill wrote the books. And to improve your understanding for the topic of passive voice, you can find a practice or an exercise on page 88 in your book. What is required actually in this exercise is to complete these sentences. As you see here, on your left hand we have the active sentences, and on the right one you have the passive. So you are going to make the active a passive one, and vice versa. I mean, you will find some passive sentences completely solved, so you're going just to make the active one. So according to your understanding, you can solve this exercise. By moving to Unit 12, we have phrasal verbs. To shed the light on phrasal verbs, we can say that in English, a phrasal verb is a combining of 2 or 3 words from different grammatical categories. A verb and a particle, such as an adverb or a preposition. So what do we mean by phrasal verb? Phrasal verb, it's a combination of 2 items. The first one is a verb, and the second one is either an adverb or a preposition. And by the way, you have to notice that the meaning of the verb by its own will be different from being in a phrasal verb. And you have the notice here, these semantic units cannot be understood based upon the meanings of the individual parts, but must be taken as a whole. So the meaning of the phrasal verb is different from the meaning of the verb alone. Here we have a list of some phrasal verbs with their meanings and with some examples. First of all, we have turn on and turn off. These opposite phrasal verbs. First of all, with turn on means to switch on the electricity. With turn off, it means to switch off electricity. We can say turn on the CD player so we can dance, and we can say we turned off the lights before anyone could see us. With look after means take care of. My mother promised to look after my dog while I was gone. We have look up to, which means respect. We can say first graders really look up to their teachers. And go on means continue. He would finish one Dickens novel and then just go on to the next. And finally, we have look forward to, which means anticipate with pleasure. I always look forward to the beginning of a new semester. You see here we have a very small number of phrasal verbs, and there are so many phrasal verbs. You can search and find them, and these are the most important ones that you can find them in your books. Here we have practice 4. You can find it on page 100 in your book. What is required just to complete the sentences with one of these phrasal verbs in the correct form. You have grow up, go out with, fall out with, get on with, and look forward to. So you're going to complete the sentences with what suits it or what you can find meaningful when just to complete the sentence. The last unit that we are concerned with today is Unit 13, Present Perfect Continuous. This topic is found in your book with some exercises, but first of all we are going to look at Present Perfect Continuous, to the meaning and when do we use it. So the present perfect continuous, also called the present perfect progressive, is a verb tense which is used to show that an action started in the past and has continued up to the present moment. So we have an action that began or started in the past tense, but it is still continuing up to the present moment. The present perfect continuous usually emphasizes duration or the amount of time that an action has been taking place. As you see here in this diagram, we have the past, the present, and the future tense. So the present perfect continuous tense started in the past and continued up to the present, as it is clarified here. Present perfect continuous form. The present perfect continuous form, by using have or has plus been and followed by the present participle of the main verb. Questions are indicated by inverting the subject and has and have, while negatives are made with nots. Here we have example that illustrates how the statement, the question, and negative sentences are. We have, you have been waiting here for 2 hours. This is the statement or the affirmative sentence. With the question we are going to say, have you been waiting here for 2 hours? While with the negative we say, you have not been waiting here for 2 hours. The use of present perfect continuous. So after we had a look on the function of the present perfect continuous and the structure, now we move to the use. We use the present perfect continuous to show that something started in the past and has continued up until now. We can use for 5 minutes, for 2 weeks, and since it's Tuesday, for example. All this duration can be used with the present perfect continuous. So all in all, we can say that we use the present perfect continuous to talk about past action recently stopped or past action still continuing. Here we have some examples. They have been talking for the last hour. She has been working at that company for 3 years. What have you been doing for the last 30 minutes? James has been teaching at the university since June. We have been waiting here for over 2 hours. And finally, we have a question. Why has Nancy not been taking her medicine for the last 3 days? So we have word formation here. And this is the last topic that we are going to discuss through our last lecture for today. And I think that word formation, it is the first time that you hear about this topic. Word formation, it's a process in which a word changes its form and function. Word of one type, which is usually a noun, is reduced and used as a verb, or a noun is changed into an adjective. So word formation means when we want to change a word, for example, if we have a verb and we are going to change it into a noun, so we call this process word formation. When we have a noun and we are going to make it an adjective, this process also called word formation. Here we have some examples. First of all, we have donate, donation. We change the verb and we made it a noun. Well, we have babysit. It would be babysitter, also a verb, to a noun. Back form, back formation, a verb to be a noun. Peace, peaceful. Here we have peace, the noun, that has been changed to be an adjective, which is peaceful. And again, we have a beauty, the noun, will be changed to be an adjective, which is beautiful. Concerning word formation, you can find a practice on page 105 in your book. What's required here just to change the noun into a verb or a noun into an adjective, or vice versa. You can fill the blanks here and make what is required. After that, you will complete the following sentences with a word from the exercise 1. So after you finish with the first exercise by making the chart, you are going to use the word to complete the sentences below in this exercise. The last thing that we have in this lecture is the writing activity. So dear students, you are required to write a composition in not more than 100 words about one of the following topics. So you are free just to choose either my favorite teacher or my dream and write a composition in not more than 100 words. This is concerning the writing activity, and it's important just to check your level of writing. After you finish writing, just write your name and send me your writings to the following email that is available here. You can find it to send me your writings. So now it's time just to say goodbye and wish you all the luck. Thank you.